Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the D'Amato Files, where myself, Nick, and themselves,
Clive and
we are talking about the entire filmography of how do you say his name? Aristide Mazacchese? Aristide Mazacchese?
Aristide, I would say.
Okay, sure.
I know it's Mazacchese.
Mazacchese, okay.
Because we sing it. We just sang it, Dick.
Oh, we did,
seconds ago.
Yes, well, you know, I'm having some trouble with my short-term memory. And yeah, or I mean, as most people, I think, know him as Michael Wotruba. But
we almost called it the Wotruba Files, actually.
Did we? Okay. So anyway, yes, we're talking about Joe D'Amato. We did the first 8 films that he directed last time. We're going to do the next 8 films now. So that'll take us from, I think, 1973, which will be Pugni Pirati e Karate, right up to Emmanuel in America, which I had never seen before this episode. And
oh boy.
I don't know if I'm looking forward to unpacking that or not, but I took a lot of notes. So so without further ado, who wants to deal with fucking pirates, punch-ups, and whatever the hell that thing was? Richard Harrison starring thing, which we should say, and actually funny enough, when I went to read reviews of this, the first one I found was yours, Gav, which is hilarious.
Yes, I thought as well.
Because there's virtually no one else has ever reviewed this, apparently, maybe because the only version of it that was available for a long time was actually the Super 8 like home version of it, which somebody had done some fan subs for, but very recently a much nicer looking print of the entire 7 hours worth of whatever it was has become available, but that has not been fan subbed yet. So I don't know, Gab, I felt like from reading your review that we're on the same page here. You didn't feel you missed an awful lot by the deletion of some 60-something minutes from
the half hour version. I think you've seen the best of it. You know, when it seems like so.
I strongly agree. But
I think the digest could do with a digest, to be honest.
The 15-minute version, perhaps.
Yeah.
But he was making pirate films that late in the day, and it's a very traditional pirate film as well, isn't it? Really, it's like Hollywood era, you know.
I think it's kind of part of a not real series, right? Because there's Karate, Fists and Beans, and then there's Robin Hood, Arrows, Beans and Karate or something.
Okay.
Because I think it starts life as, I think Karate, Fists and Beans is the first one, right? And it's like it's in that tradition of post-Trinity spaghetti western comedies, right? Where they just got more and more stupid and annoying, and I think Dean Reed as well might be in that one, if I remember correctly. The you know, Comrade Rockstar, the guy who the American who went the other side of the Iron Curtain and became a Soviet films. You're looking blank at me, Nick, as if you've never heard.
Yeah,
of
I'm not aware of this person at all. Sorry. I'm
Oh,
also just
okay.
opening up
You
another
should
tab on
check
my
out,
computer, but
there's a couple of
legitimately.
There's a couple of documentaries on YouTube, I think. Yeah, check out Dean Reed. It's a fascinating story.
Okay.
Some people thought he might have been a spy. Other people, it's quite interesting. There's some good books about him. Anyway, he's in Karate, Fists and Beans.
Wait,
Probably the most important
right.
part of his career. Yeah, and then there's another one which is the Robin Hood one, which I'm guessing is just well, it's just like this rollicking kind of punch-ups and rolling about.
Yeah, this has very as a number of the films this episode has a very strong we made it up as we went along feeling to me.
I think the idea that Joe D'Amato made a pirate film with karate things sounds better than it does in reality to watch it.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
As is
the version that plays in your head is much better than to actually sit through it.
Exactly.
As is the concept of watching all of Joe D'Amato's films for a YouTube series sounds a lot better than it actually.
So yes. So what the hell is this thing about?
Well, it's clearly the origin story of how Richard Harrison first got introduced to the arts of ninjutsu, right? And then
this is true. Long before he traveled
yes.
and studied under his master, what the hell's his name?
Godfrey Ho.
Godfrey Ho, yes.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, no, this is the seed of it, and then it took 20 years for him to grow a mustache, and then he was ready for proper ninja.
Garfield film as well. Don't forget the Garfield film.
Yes, because as we know from this film, apparently Bruce Lee was still already around.
Oh yes, this is true.
Century or something.
Yeah, even though everything else about this film, yes, it's a period piece, and then we get a random reference to Bruce Lee, which sets it in the 1970s.
Yeah, that's quite amusing. I was wondering if it's it is in the original language.
Yeah, you can hear him. You can hear him say Bruce Lee in the Italian dub. So what we have is Richard Harrison playing a character called Gargantua.
Yeah,
and then Roberto Dell'Acqua, who I recognized vaguely from other. I think he actually shows up in some of the other movies we watched for this. But anyway, playing his kind of sidekick or possibly lover. I really felt like their relationship was very open to your individual interpretation. Whose name is the Velvet Hand.
Yeah.
May
I assist you, Gargantua, with my velvet hand?
That was the way I read it anyway.
I was getting quite strong John Holmes vibes of him as well. There's something.
Yes, kind of this sketchy little kind of thin mustache.
A stunt guy, right? From what I understand, a stunt guy primarily. So I'm wondering if he's. Yeah, we've probably seen him a lot more than we imagine, and I don't know if he turns up as one of the 3 fantastic Supermen in one of that endless series of films, maybe.
Right, but that makes sense because his most entertaining scene in this is a lengthy trampolining scene where he's tossed around by our karate.
I must correct you there, Nick. There are no trampolines involved. Those were gravity-defying acts of acrobatism.
Okay, that's what that was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what the hell? So shall I try to do the plot here quickly?
Why not?
Whatever there is.
Yeah. Don't know why you bother, but go on.
Opens with them walking on a beach, complaining about being hungry. They find a bunch of dudes doing karate, none of whom are Asian to my eye, but clearly are claimed to be such by the.
One of them looks quite a bit like Vic Morrow, actually.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Yeah. Is he also in the war one as well? The Heroes in Hell.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought I recognized.
Oh, I do have to say that when I got to hear the entire theme song, I was particularly appalled by how shit it is. It's got some of the most insipid lyrics I've ever heard. I had to write them down. Kiss you sweetly and love you, my love. Feel my heart on the wings of a dove. Sung with it's a shitty folk rock sea shanty hippie thing. It's awful. Anyway, yeah. I will say Richard Harrison actually at this point has gone fully native because his acting style is very big. Like he's almost like Franco Nero levels of like gesticulation and like gurning, which is not bad for like an American actor.
Lots of footage from the Conqueror of Maracaibo as well. That's where all the footage is for the looks good.
I assumed, because I have a note near the end like this thing looks like it's got like a lot of production values for a Joe D'Amato comedy pirate film. So all of that stuff near the end with like the big attack on.
It's from a Eugenio Martino pirate film, which I think might have been shot on sets built for El Cid, the Charlton Heston epic in Spain. So it looks a lot better than it deserves to. Lamberto Bava as assistant director, apparently, on this film.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing missing, I suppose, from the digest version is missing the hilarious fat woman with warts on her face.
Yes, being sort of seduced by Richard Harrison.
Yes, but everything else is actually the thing that most interesting about it, because this film is pretty. I mean, it's just it's not like the worst film I've ever seen or anything. It's just very, but it did get me quite interested in. I don't think I've ever watched a 8mm digest.
There's quite a few of them up at Cinemageddon if you're interested in seeing what other.
I am kind of interested now. I just the idea of hey kids, I'm back from work and guess what I've got? Karate, fists, and beans. And sorry, pirates. There's no beans in this one.
Yeah, no.
Pirates, fists, karate, and yeah, it's just interesting that this got the 8mm treatment and
right. Yeah, it's weird.
But not lost. It was
not
lost, right, for a long time until the recent HD Italian TV release.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I mean, to finish my very brief description of the plot, such as it is. Yeah. So then, what they kind of they go off to a slave market where Richard Harrison pontificates about maybe buying a slave. They're seen by a couple of pirates who think they look like likely guys that we're going to want to kind of what's the thing where you knock people, blackjack them, and put them on a ship? There's a name for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what I'm talking about? That thing. You knock somebody out and put them on your ship.
Press gang.
Press gang. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. No. Sorry. That's when you start a newspaper in your high school, isn't it?
That's what I thought. Yes, and you have one guy who does a terrible American accent, who's clearly not an American.
You leave Dexter Fletcher alone.
All right, will do. So yeah. So then, and then they run away. And then they find themselves in the chamber of this Zorro type of figure who turns out to be like she turns out to be a she. That's the big reveal there. She wears a kind of a red mask, and she's fighting to free her island from the tyranny of something. Her dad was the ex-governor. That's kind of it, right?
Yeah, and Velvet Hand gets cuckolded, so he's a bit in the latter half of the film.
So maybe I can talk about the two things I did like, and then you guys can chime in. I liked, there was a scene quite near the beginning where they're all, that actually made me laugh out loud, which is kind of sad. But there was a scene when they're having the big punch up where Richard Harrison looks like he's going to step in, and then he kind of rolls up his sleeves, and then he sits down and eats a big loaf of bread. And I don't know why.
Comedy gold.
But that worked for me. And then later on, he just does the same thing again, and it worked again when he takes a big wheel of cheese and he cuts a slice out, and then he puts a slice down, and then takes the whole wheel of cheese with him. And I was like, haha, yes, that was funny.
The bit that made me laugh was genuinely made me laugh was the scene where they're both quite crap at having to torture someone.
Yes.
That was quite funny. And they keep accidentally like burning each other and stuff, and like they're really not into it. That was actually, that bit was quite playing into your velvet hand gargantuan friendly theory as well.
And yeah, that was kind of it for me. I don't have anything else to say about this. Do you guys want to chime in there, and if you have anything to add?
I mean, it looks nice, doesn't it? I mean, the cinematography in that. I mean, if you see the HD version, I think you can appreciate it on that level. But I don't know. I think it's maybe only worth about half an hour of your time. So stick with the digest version, kids.
Yeah, somebody needs to edit the digest version. Like, they need to take that new HD print and then edit it back to the size of the so you get best of both worlds. Because you're right. I often think, especially when I think of Joe D'Amato, he's really ill-served by the way I saw most of his films the first time, which was on grainy, duplicated VHS tapes that were pan and scanned. And I'm consistently surprised by how, like, I remember seeing Black Cobra, which we'll talk about later on, back then, and it looked like shit. And then you're kind of like, oh, all of these films look, I mean, well, it makes sense. He's a cinematographer first. But you're right, this film looks better than it is, basically.
Okay, then, with no further ado, Diary of a Roman, Diaria di una Vergine Romane, I guess, or something similar, because I don't think this ever got a legit English language release, as far as I know. Another Michael Wotruba joint. So we saw this without the benefit of a dub or subtitles, right? Stars Lucretia Love, a Texan who was in the Arena, right, which is one of the sources of. There's quite a few sources of footage.
Yes. This is clearly cut together from like 9 other peplums.
Well, it's the Arena, The Last Days of Pompeii, the one that Leone worked on, right?
Right. That stuff looks really good. I have to say, that footage is quite impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goliath Against the Giants, and Triumph of the 10 Gladiators, I think. Not so. Primarily, this, I understood this film as being D'Amato's stealing footage from the Arena, which he shot, and some people argue that he might actually have co-directed. Is that right?
The Arena?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd read that too, but I don't know if it's true or not, but I'd read.
Yeah, I heard the Italian side of the production didn't really trust the American director. So
Steve Carver, right?
So that's why they got Joe D'Amato to be the cinematographer, and then he may have directed the action scenes, and the American director directed the dialogue scenes. So
okay,
that's kind of interesting. The Italian poster for the Arena just credits Joe that Michael
Wotruba.
Yeah, that's he's credited the director, not Steve Carver.
Interesting.
So,
I wonder if Joe was insistent he was. What do you mean? I am American, Joe D'Amato. No, from Italy. I'm from Chicago. Because apparently that's his whole thing, right? It's a cover that he wanted people to think he was Italian American, right? Along the line of Coppola or something like that.
The Italian poster for the Arena, that's another interesting thing, right? It credits Rose Albanieri as Sarah Bay, which I always thought was just a name she was used for the English language versions of a film. I didn't realise she was filmed that into it as well.
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw the Arena, but I remember it being all right. It's one of the Pam Grier, Margaret Markov team-ups, right, along with Black Mama, White Mama, and one of the women in prison movies they did, because that seemed to have been a popular salt and pepper drive-in duo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like New World was possibly offered this film, and rather than dub it and Americanize it, decided to ship some of their people off to Italy and sort of make their own sort of version of this sort of mixture of exploitation and peppers.
Right. Have you seen The Arena, Nick?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's all right. Looks much better. Yeah, you need to see it. The English version is, if I remember it, around is very, it's panned and scanned and
Okay.
but you need to see it in
Widescreen.
It's
Sure, somebody's
shot by Master Jesse, right? So
fan dubbed it. If I look at my usual
Right.
haunts, I'm sure I can find a decent print that's been fan dubbed.
and it was remade in Russia as well, of all places. I remember in like early 2000s or something. I've never seen that version, but kind of interesting to see.
So I'm going to jump right back because for a moment,
you haven't had enough pirate.
No, I did want
karate.
to bring up one thing about that really struck me both times when watching both prints, the clean one and the muddy one, is that the stunt double for Richard Harrison is hilariously not him in the karate scenes. Like he's like a foot shorter, it looks like. He's like the tiny little guy in a wig who's like, and I was like, is that part of the joke or is that just bad filmmaking? Was unclear to me. But what I was going to say about this film is this film feels like it's like a sandwich where the bread at the top and bottom is all recycled footage, and like the actual movie is like the middle of the film, but the whole opening scene is just like a mass of footage from various disaster. I assume mostly from Last Days of Pompeii, right?
Yes, I think so. It's been a while since I saw that one, but I think so.
It's amazing, and then the end of it is such a mishmash of different footage that I started losing track of, like, not only what movie I was watching and who the characters were, but also like it seemed like every other shot was like a different set of characters in different period gear. It was just total pandemonium the last like 20 minutes of the film, and then they brought us back
accurately representing the state of mind of what happens in a disaster. So it's
okay, sure,
it's a work of great genius.
Okay. I see.
I thought there would be more. I thought there would be more arena stuff in it, actually, because over the years I read that it was just basically Joe having pinched the whole stuff from the arena, then adding some sexy stuff. But yeah, there's more to the platter than just the arena, right? It's
oh yeah, there's actually not that much gladiator stuff.
No, and some of it might be from Triumph of the 10 Gladiators. Which is a Dan Vaddis peplum. Also, I think not only did he add some nudity and stuff, is there seems like some of the gore is unique to this version as well, right?
Yeah, somebody gets an arrow through the neck. That's quite effective at one point.
Axe in the head.
In the head, yes.
But they also the scene where like a couple are both getting impaled on like a stick or something. That reminded me of that scene, that Friday the 13th Part 2 ripped off from Witch of the Death Nerve. The two couples both getting impaled by the same spy. I don't know if Joe stole that from Mario Bava as well. That idea.
Yeah, possibly.
But it was just something I didn't, because I'm assuming that's original to this. I didn't know that they went to the trouble of shooting some gore effects, right? And it seems like, I haven't seen it yet, but I think when we get to 1983 later on in this series, if we survive that long, I think this was remade, right, as a virgin for the Roman Empire.
Oh,
I'm guessing is a Diary of a Roman Virgin remake.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's me done on that particular. You take it away, lads, if you've got any more to say about that particular title.
I've written notes for some reason, so I might as well just look at them really quickly. There is it opens with a cute dog running away from a volcano. That's great.
Right. So when I asked, do you have anything more to say about this, the answer was no, I think.
I'm sure I do. The Caesar looks a bit like Jimmy Fallon. There's a scene where somebody's dripping honey on her flesh. Kind of, she becomes a hook. Well, we haven't mentioned, they don't even introduce the main character for like 25 minutes, right? It feels like, because it's just endless shit blowing up and falling over.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did forget to mention that. So yeah, so it's the flashbacks and remembrances of a former prostitute who seems to have risen the ranks of the empire, right?
There's a great scene where some dude is drizzling honey on her naked flesh while she's having a PTSD flashback of all the shit exploding, and I was like, that's interesting.
I was wondering about that. Actually, I was thinking about how easily honey comes off. I think it doesn't, right? I think
it's quite sticky.
I don't think you want the honey massage. I don't think.
She looks a bit Kim Cattrall like, which I mean I quite like 80s Kim Cattrall.
Right.
So that's Lucretia. She's
that scene where she goes to the boys' locker room and can't stop screaming.
That's the one. There's a sudden appearance by Nello Pazzafini, a favorite of mine from our Umberto Lenzi. He was in almost every one of those. Anything else? No, that might be people get crucified, and I think we're good.
Okay. Heroes in Hell, or AKA the day Klaus Kinski had an afternoon off.
Yep. And lots like more Luciano Rossi than Klaus Kinski, who has been dubbed with not a German accent. It's definitely something else. Sounds kind of like possibly gay Spanish, but definitely not German.
Yeah, the other thing about Luciano Rossi, who plays a commandant villain in this war film, is for a while I'm looking at him going, is that Giuliano Gemma or not? He looks very much like Giuliano Gemma in this film.
In the in that the Ringo bleach blonde Giuliano Gemma.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he doesn't look you're right, he doesn't look as hunchbacked and kind of like sweaty and gross as he normally does. He's
my guess is
put together in this.
Keeler didn't fancy him at all in this film because he's not.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's
the one that she likes.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. What the fuck? What the hell is this thing? It's the not so great escape, is what this is.
Yes, the lame escape.
Yeah, okay. I attempted to have a go at the plot of the last.
Go on then, seeing as you went to the trouble.
I'm not even gonna try with this. Somebody else has to step up and explain. Gav, do you want to tell us what was happening in Heroes in Hell?
Well, I've got American POWs escape Nazi prison camp, then team up with French resistance to kidnap a high-ranking SS general. That's it.
That is pretty much it in a nutshell.
And it took a long time to do it.
They do. I mean, Klaus Kinski, you're not joking. He really doesn't show up. I have a note that just says like, we have like 15 minutes left to go of this, and I still haven't seen Klaus Kinski yet, who's like prominently in the poster for the film and in like all the surrounding materials. And it's really not. I also like that Luciano Rossi plays, another Nazi commandant, and he makes little model boats. So in order to one up him, then when we cut to Klaus Kinski restores gigantic frescoes, like Italian,
Well, I thought that element was slightly interesting, just because it's a bit of a sneaky kind of reference to all the stolen Nazi loot and stuff as well, right? And actually, there's a couple of bits on in the dub, which also had me suspicious that someone on the dubbing team might have been smoking a blunt or two prior to stepping into the. So there's like a bit in particular where they've, once again, this happens a lot. They've knocked someone out, and they're stealing the outfit. you know,
Mhm.
so he's undoing this SS and he just like says,
Mhm.
exasperated, he says, do they really need all these buttons? That made me laugh. That's quite a good, but then
Yeah.
my favorite was because
Yes.
they don't, yes, he says, I really hope this guy kept a tight asshole when he died.
Yes. I also wrote that entire line down. I was
There we
so
go. So there we
pleased
go.
with it.
On different parts of the planet, two men wrote down this line of dialogue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rosemary Lint, I suppose, is the other name. She's the chick, right? She's the, because of course they escape and they meet up with partisans and face, yeah, stock footage, war footage.
I do like their escape. Like there's a lengthy scene of them just slowly unscrewing the bolts out of the bottom of this truck. But then when they start falling out, it's like a donkey dropping turds in the street or something, as each one just plumps down, and then the thing drives away, and then another just falls out the bottom of the and then one guy gets dragged.
So this one, again, we're watching not the greatest print in the world, but I suspect this might be one of the few films that Joe D'Amato might not have shot, because it doesn't look very good. Like it's got a lot of close-ups where they shouldn't be close-ups and very odd framing choices. And again, that could be a pan and scan thing, but it seems it might be a problem with the original. So I'm wondering if this is one of the times he might have passed off cinematography duties to Luciano Rossi or something.
could be. And who is the guy who plays our, you know, like Dr. Jack Daniels, the guy he's literally drinking rubbing alcohol at one point.
Yeah, I didn't write down, and I was surprised actually how unfamiliar most of the leads in this film.
Oh, here, sorry, Ettore Mani, or Ettore.
Right, well, I know he's in millions of things, but he's not, you know, he's usually like a henchman or a small role.
Yeah, he's not going to be
this is the film where all those people finally got a chance to star in something, right?
Oh, he looks like he's in a bunch of spaghetti westerns and other war films.
All of them, I think, all of the crack team are, they're very much the B team.
The C string.
I'm wondering if they pooled together their wages or something and they're like, we can star in a film. Fuck that Richard Harrison. We'll buy our own trampoline.
I also love a movie where like there's a, you know, there is, so when they first introduced our drunken doctor, right, immediately there's another guy who's like Lieutenant Exposition, who's like, oh well, you know, his wife was very ill and he was forced to do a mercy killing on her, and then he was sent to jail, and then he got out, and then he came to join the war and was immediately caught and put in this camp. And you're like, yeah, thanks.
Another character goes, yeah, we know all that, but yeah.
He's called Backer, I think he's the character's name. Every time I heard that, I got that song playing in my head. Yes, Sir, I Can Boogie by the singing Geo Baccarat. Not what I expected to have playing in my head during the World War II.
Also,
yes, Sir, I Can Boogie. Yes, I hadn't thought of that for a long time. Very good cover version by the band Velodrome 2000 as well of that particular song.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. So yeah, and then immediately they smash cut from that opening scene to like what feels like 25 minutes of black and white dogfight footage from somewhere else, maybe just from World War II. And then but intercut with dudes in like fake cockpits just gurning like don't know.
Yes, there was top gurning in this film. Some of the jibs being pulled in cockpits was fucking. They should have had Bunta Sugawara in there.
Yes, agreed.
That was actually quite hilarious. There was that had me rolling, and then I went back to sleep. But yeah, that was pretty funny. And the fact, yeah, it is an odd choice to. I understand it in a film when someone has a flashback and it's in black and white or whatever, but the fact that they then kind of tried to mix and match footage that wasn't in black, and what's there was there didn't seem to be any kind of underpinning logic to it, right? The film just turned black and white for a while, regardless of which time zone we were in. It was a bit of a mess, really. And just quite boring. Like you said, it's not one of the most, because I like a good men on a mission film, especially if it involves like a chateau in the French countryside or something. I'm usually all over that, but this is quite boring.
Yeah, I think the best thing in the whole movie is when it opens with that wall of graffiti that says stuff like "suck and fuck a duck," just being like put across the wall of the prison. And Kilroy was here, spelled wrong. But yeah. No, this is far from.
They were referencing chat show host Kilroy Silk, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
Because he was in the partisans, I believe, in World War II before his hair turned white. What's his first name? Something Kilroy Silk. What's his first name?
Robert, I think.
Robert Kilroy Silk. Is he still around?
Possibly. I've never heard of him for years. But...
Might be dead. I don't know. Do you remember Kilroy, Nick? He was like our Jerry Springer, maybe, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, no. That would have been definitely after I left. Anyway, there was something else I wanted to say about this, but I've lost whatever.
Never mind. There's no need
I'm sure it wasn't important at all.
Right.
Oh, yeah. No. There's a scene where everyone rubs themselves with nettles. If that gets you off, this is the movie to watch. A bunch of men rubbing themselves with nettles.
That's what the velvet hand is for, so you don't get
the soothing touch of the velvet hand. He's got calamine. He seeps calamine lotion from his pores.
Well, towards the end of this film, I thought I must have seen this somewhere before. I got a real sense of deja vu of seeing the ending of this film, and I can only think that it must have played on a British TV channel we used to have it over here called Movies for Men channel with four spelled four.
Right.
And they used to play during daytime. It used to play lots of Italian westerns and war films, pretty much back to back. And then the big film at 9 o'clock would be some direct to DVD rubbish starring Dolph Lundgren or Steven Seagal. And I'm sure I saw the end of this film on Movies for Men. I thought I'd kick myself at the time. I think because you see that last 15 minutes of this film, this looks like a very action-packed movie with Klaus Kinski in it. And give myself that. Little did I know that pretty much all the action and all the Klaus Kinski is in the last 15 minutes.
So you tuned in a bit too early to check out Red Sonja or something, and were treated to the last 15 minutes of Heroes in Hell.
I'm sure this must have played in the afternoon. So I wonder if they had to cut anything, because there's a tiny bit of nudity in the film and that.
Movies. Excuse me. Movies for Men was a satellite channel.
Yeah.
I don't remember Movies for Men. Was that short-lived?
I think it went on for a couple of years. I think then sort of Stoney bought it, and I don't know. I don't think it's still around.
They ran out of manly movies.
But it was pretty much constantly, Italian westerns and war films and public domain sort of John Wayne sort of stuff. But, yeah, I wonder if they had to cut any of that graffiti out as well, because that's a bit strong for afternoon TV.
That and that line about I hope you kept a tight asshole.
Yes, I'd like to think that the movies for men after midnight just started showing exclusively Kenneth Anger films, and through till about 4 or 5, and then switched back to.
I think they might have shown a bit of what was that California thing? That company in California used to be a lot of exploitation. Brain freeze now. Anyway, Crown International.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crown International. Anyway, we probably shouldn't get into that. I'll be here all night. But yeah,
Okay.
fascinating.
All right.
That's
So we're
that's another YouTube series, I think, is the Crown International catalog, because they've got what I liked about the Crown International films that I've seen is they don't fit a category. Like they're always like a bit of a mix and match of different ideas, and they're always kind of interesting to watch. Yeah, anyway, so Red.
So we're done. So we're done with boring World War II film, and now we're into extremely boring set in Canada. This movie has like 9 titles as well. Killers of the Savage North. Redcoats is the one that's probably best known by, but there's also like Cormac of the Mounties, and it's
good looking film. I'll give it that.
Yes.
And
how is this called Redcoat in the UK? I think in the UK, sort of Redcoat would be like synonymous with like people who work at holiday camp. You know, the Redcoats.
That would be if someone went to the cinema hoping, there's this new film, Fabio Testes and Butlins, I've heard. He bumps into Robin Asquith and hilarity ensues.
But Redcoats was also like, so I mean, British soldiers during like the American Revolutionary War would have been Redcoats as well, right? Like, but this is specifically like the Royal Canadian Kilted Yaxman or whatever. They do wear red.
Right.
They still do to this day. They still wear the red jackets.
Yaxman stink of cheese. Oh, yeah, I forget the lyrics now, but so this seems as well. So it's a very specific. So it seems as if the Lucio Fulci's adaptation of White Fang, and the sequel to it were huge hits, especially in Germany, right? And so this is kind of, even though it's, I mean, it does have a dog in it, so there's like a slight link, but it's more than anything else. It's got that flavor of, again, when we were talking earlier about there's like a weird series of beans, fists, and kind of thing. So this is like a small subsection of the spaghetti western adjacent world, right, where you had these snowbound more like adventures than they are anything else, right? Like high adventure, family
Spaghetti Jack London.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, I mean, it's not my cup of tea, and yes, it is kind of boring, but actually, for what it is, this is a perfectly serviceable.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
okay
for what it is.
I mean, I like Fabio Testi.
Fabio Testi,
that's the one. Yeah. But also at the same time, I don't. But I had never really figured out my feelings about Fabio. He's when he is good, and he's very good in certain things. He's good in some giallos. He's very good at playing like people who have like had an affair with a 16-year-old girl who's then been murdered and wanders around looking kind of somber and worried about he's going to lose his job. But that doesn't happen in this film. I don't believe.
No, but in case anyone does watch that.
Any other Fabio? I didn't mention the name of the film, but I'm just saying, he's good at that. He's okay in some of the.
Whatever did happen to that film? What have you done to that film?
What have I done to that film, Glenn? And then he's good in some of the like Enzo G. Castellari Eurocrime things he's in. That's the thing that struck me about this more than anything else, actually, was that what it reminded me of, even more than a spaghetti western, is the simultaneously like going on Eurocrime films. Like there's and it's partly to do with the dubbers, because a lot of very recognizable stock dubbing voices are in this, including we'll get to this again, but like it opens up almost quite near the beginning with like basically a bank robbery, and they come in and they have to foil it, and it plays out very much like a scene with Maurizio Merli, like from a movie that would have been made, the same time, but like in contemporary times.
This is a new low, even for you, Nick, in trying to shoehorn Eurocrime.
No, it really, trust me, I've soaked. marinated in Eurocrime long
This
enough
is
to
the
know.
problem. It's seeping out into things that got nothing to do with it.
No, that okay, all right.
Interesting theory. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Um,
At one point, I did like the fact that Fabio Tessi says that his ex-wife, who has died off camera or whatever, he's like, she was a singer, the best in Canada. And my thought is, so not that great then.
once again, apologies to viewers in the Canada
who didn't spend their teenage years studying Canadian history. My fucking God. I spent a whole year studying the building of the Canadian Pacific Railroad.
That sounds quite interesting.
No, trust me, a year is too long to spend on the building of a single railroad that spanned a big flat country with nothing in it. So
I can imagine even back then you were in the class and, sir, can I just say, this is very similar to that Maurizio Merli. Shut up, Nick.
Yes, I was.
And Lynn Frederick being super cute, as always. She was with Fabio Testi in Four of the Apocalypse as well, right?
Yes.
They teamed up.
She does disappear from this film very abruptly, though, doesn't she? I mean, she's like a major character for like first 30 minutes, then you just hear, oh, we had a child together and she died.
Right.
I think
what happened then?
I think the ants from Phase 4 got her.
I don't know what happened there, but there's like a 2-hour documentary about it on YouTube called Lynn the English Rose, but even that doesn't seem to fail to why she just disappears from this film.
Any good, that doc?
Worth a look, although it's obviously like made by someone who's clearly obsessed by her, and it's sort of built her up in his head as like not only the most important actress of the 20th century, but the most important woman of the 20th century.
Wow. A lot of perspective in that one. Wow, that sounds actually quite fancy to see that now. To deal
with the story very quickly then, basically. Shall I try?
I don't know why you're bothering, to be honest.
I don't know why either. Nobody cares.
No.
But Fabio Testi plays a redcoat.
In Butlins.
In Butlins, yes.
Which has had a record amount of snow over the winter.
It has. I did wonder that. I wondered, like, because obviously this is not shot in Canada, so I wondered if it's probably just northern Italy. Like
I was wondering where it was shot and then forgot to look it up. Yeah, probably. Tyrol or something.
Yeah. So basically he's just found out that his old nemesis Caribou has escaped from jail and has sworn holy vengeance upon him. And then the film is in a series of flashbacks. We get a sense of like why they hate each other, and then there's a big shocking reveal near the end. I assumed that the reveal was going to be that Fabio Testi's son was actually the son of the villain, and then that was not the reveal. It was actually less interesting than that, I think.
It was actually his dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Whose name is either Buck or King, depending on whether you're watching the English dub or the Italian.
Doesn't Fabio Testi look a little bit Sean Connery as well, if you squint?
Yes.
I'm surprised, as far as I know, write in if I'm wrong, but I don't think he did a Bond ripoff, right? Because that was a little ahead of his time. He would he'd have been a great Sean Connery stand-in.
He would have been really good, yes, in an Italian. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Does anybody want to say anything about this?
Don't all rush.
Oh, Robert Hundar shows up, who I always like, and he's dubbed by Mark Forrest. Mark Forrest is an actor who I like a lot because he's an American actor, went to Italy, and then he's in an episode of Star Trek where he plays Apollo before he goes, and he's in some peplums, but then he becomes like a stock dubbing voice. You will, as soon as you hear him speak, you'll know him. So I was watching Star Trek. Here's another chance to talk about Maurizio Merli. He was Maurizio Merli's main dubber in all of those. Merli gets angry and complains about how his hands are tied and he's not allowed to just shoot people in the street. So I'm watching this old episode of Star Trek, and I'm like, why is Maurizio Merli's voice coming out of that like muscle-bound American actor? And then it turns out that that's Mark Forrest. It meant a lot to me. I know it means nothing to anybody else, but it meant a lot to me. It was a watershed moment in my
life. Beautiful story.
All right, I'm done.
Okay. Emmanuelle's Revenge via The Wild Pussycat. Did anyone have a chance to watch The Wild Pussycat?
I did not. Did you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, all right. And is it the same film?
Oh, it is a remake. Yeah,
90%. I think same plot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait. So how did it take Bruno Mattei and Joe D'Amato to write? It took two people to rewrite the script.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. When he says something, you will write it down. Now, when she say, I write it down.
Okay.
When they were in the cinema one day.
Nice.
I think the only main difference between the two is like in The Wild Pussycat, the guy's a pimp, whereas in Emmanuelle's Revenge, he's the actor sort of pimps his girlfriend out to the people anyway. So that's the major difference.
Yeah. So in the Wild Pussycat, it's basically a story of a woman who's taking vengeance for her sister who had committed suicide because she'd gone all in with this kind of heel guy who, basically pimped her out for rent, right? And then she gets her revenge by putting him in a secret room with a two-way mirror. One I want the magic mirror, but then here in Japan that's a very different subgenre of porn, so that's confusing. But anyway, one of them mirrors that isn't really a mirror, or it is. For fuck's sake. You can see through a window.
Yes, one side.
Yes. And she gets up to all sorts of debauched hijinks while he's forced to watch. And so we'll get to this when we get to the character is George Eastman in Emmanuelle's Revenge, and it's interesting. It really made me appreciate George Eastman because the guy in the original film, he's fine and all, but like you don't really understand. So he's forced to watch this woman you get it on with other men and women in the room or whatever, and he's like, agonized, he's hanging there, and he never sells, because I'm just thinking the whole time, just look the other way, or just why are you letting it get you? The only thing I can think of is because there's one good scene in The Wild Pussycat where she goes in and she gives him like a cigarette and something to drink. So, okay, so he's also maybe in withdrawal or something, right? Like he's kind of, but when we get to Emmanuelle's Revenge, George Eastman kind of, he sold it.
Oh yes,
because we'll get to it, but he was really. I didn't question it in Emmanuelle's Revenge, whereas in the Greek version, I couldn't quite understand why he was losing his.
You couldn't buy into it the way you could.
The Greek, the Wild Pussycat. I don't know what Gav thought of it. I thought it was like it started off all right, but then it just really slow. I don't know why. There was something pacing issue. It just really slowed down for me, and it took ages to get where it was going. Not bad, but I don't know. Just felt very, very slow. Did you feel it slow, Gav?
Yeah, but I mean, I think probably watching Emmanuelle's Revenge first, I think it borrowed so much from it that when I saw The Wild Pussycat, like I know almost exactly how every scene is going to end and what every character is going to do, and it only really diverts. They only really divert from each other over like the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, there's a few variants on what happens in Wild Pussycat, right? But yeah, so yeah, Wild Pussycat was most definitely unofficially ripped off by Emmanuelle's Revenge, or whatever other title you would like to file it under.
Well, I originally saw this as Blood Vengeance on UK Video, is what it's called. It's almost like marketed as like a horror film, really.
Which, I mean, makes certain there's definitely some of it that, you know, I mean, it is kind of a Giallo-esque, you know, in some ways.
This is Rosemary Lint again, right? She's our Emmanuelle. It's not an Emmanuelle film. It's not a black Emmanuelle film. It is no. And so she's our main character here, and just again, she jumped in front of a train.
Yeah, it opens with her posing for some porn shoot, and then she goes home, and her boyfriend George Eastman's already banging some other girl and tells her to get the fuck out. She tries to call her sister, can't get through, so she jumps under a train, and that's how it begins. It's funny, I noticed, because I think I watched this first, and then I watched Red Coat, and I was like, well, that, like, Caribou is almost the same character, right? Because he basically also a gambler who gets in trouble and then starts to basically force his wife or whatever into like increasingly compromising. So yeah, it was kind of funny. And George Eastman wrote Red Coat. Yeah,
Emmanuelle's Revenge to Red Coat, that's a gear shift.
Yes.
Well, apparently, he claims to have written part of Emmanuelle's Revenge as well. Apparently, he's like initially just was meant to just write it, and then he claimed he didn't really want to act in it, but they were only shooting it from the place they were shooting. It was only like 5 miles from where he lived, so and he needed the money.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Pick up Klaus Kinski on your way.
Yeah, I agree though. I think he's really good, and I think the reason he sells it is because he's such a macho fucking asshole that him being emasculated in any way, I can fully believe that he would be just raging. How dare this woman capture me and put me in her fucking, like, it's not like he really cares about her having sex in front of him. It's just the fact that like he's fucking George Eastman, and like I'm not going to be.
What sells it to me about is he's such an aid on legs. So like in this version, unlike the Greek one, when she's doing whatever it is she's doing on the other side of that glass, it's not just him going, it's him going, and like, that's something I'd like to be involved in.
Oh yes, yeah.
And he's selling that. So,
so the great thing, he just grabs his own dick through his pants at one point. He's got enough mobility because he's chained up, but he can somehow reach his own cock, so he's able to give it a good squeeze.
Fantastic Bruce Banner if they'd done an Italian Hulk.
Yes,
he could have played both of them.
Yes,
yeah, he'd be a great Hulk. We
get Luciano Rossi's in this one again. He plays a guy playing cards with George Eastman, and then George Eastman has sex with Emmanuelle's sister in front of him and his other pervy sad friend. They're just kind of doing the usual Luciano Rossi.
Yeah. No, he's I suppose according to that book, he's hot in this one.
Oh my god, I'm sure he's just
Yeah. Also, I have to admit the opening theme tune is very top of the pops of the era, isn't it? It's I could imagine people dancing to this one in the Top of the Pop studio. It's a bit of a chicory tip vibe.
Yeah. That's actually the music across this one is pretty good, and it's not as incongruous as the fucking music in Emmanuelle in Bangkok, which what the hell is that opening?
Yeah, that's like Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. So
Yes,
that's like a few different Confessions film soundtracks, like battling for supremacy.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Emmanuel's Revenge more this time than when I first saw it, because I think, yeah, back in the day when I first saw it, as Gav was saying, I either expected a horror film or a Black Emmanuel film or something else, and this time I just kind of took it on its own terms, and it's not a bad, yeah, like you said as well, Nick, slightly giallo, pervy giallo adjacent. There's some good. I liked when he was hallucinating the cannibal orgy. That was quite good fun. That's the clip they always have in Doc, and the scene where the girls break in and he's tied up, and there's like 3 or 4 women come into the.
Oh yeah,
that's the clip they show, and you think, wow, that Emmanuel's Revenge looks a lot better than I remember it being. Those are definitely the highlights.
Yeah, he looks great. He looks like a Christian martyr, like tied up there, like with these women like pawing his like naked muscular body. I was like, yep, that's. I do like George Eastman.
Yes,
I think
clearly more than you realized.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. This is another watershed moment of my life.
You were thinking, velvet hand want to meet Mr. Eastman. Yeah, no, it's all right. It's kind of quite good fun, and this adds the ending is better in this as well, because it's got a
it's got a nice double twist kind of ending. I was also thinking to myself, like, she shouldn't have kept him too long, because the more his beard grows in, the more uncontrollable he's going to be, right? Because like Luigi Montefiore, George Eastman with a beard is
he's going to be eating his own intestines by the end.
Yeah, he's like Samson. He's going to smash right through the wall. Yeah, no, I enjoyed this a lot. This was one of my faves of this brace of 8, I would say.
How did you get on with this one, Gav?
Yeah, much better than I remembered it. I mean, I remember this looking like really ugly and murky on UK video. You know, if you see like high definition, that you can really appreciate how good this film looks. I'm sure a lot of it was like put on UK video as well. The whole cannibal stuff. Yeah, so yeah, pretty good film.
And just prior to the cannibalism started, the pickle and beaver as well would have been cut out of the.
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, and the stuff with the bottle as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting actually. I'd always read that. So Erwin C. Dietrich for the German version had cut in some triple X, but they're not full.
Yeah, Brigitte Lahaye.
Brigitte Lahaye, yeah, but they're not
in the German
version, right? They're not full on hardcore. They're just a bit sexier than it's already in the film, because they have them as extras on the disc, right? The scenes with Brigitte Lahaye. I'm guessing who's supposed to be a star. She's supposed to be Rosemary Lint, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. Like a body double almost, but it's Brigitte Lahaye, so. Yeah, but no, kind of.
Yeah, this one's. I would feel comfortable. I mean, I don't know if I'm comfortable recommending this to anyone, but I would recommend this to the discerning viewer. I think this one definitely pays a few more dividends than, say, Pirates, Beans, and whatever.
Unfortunately, I don't think discerning viewer has watched this. But if one would accidentally tune in,
and have stuck with us this far into this episode, yes.
Right. Emmanuelle in Bangkok.
I request, Clive, that you begin this episode as you did the previous episode with the most banging tune of the set of films. Please find the opening title track to this and have that play over the opening of this.
If I can't, I'll just mix some On the Buses and Confessions and that song on the Pekka soundtrack, I'm a Nut. That one sounded a bit like that.
Yeah, and also it sounded like one of the more unhinged Guido and Maurizio De Angelis sort of songs as well.
Yeah, it's all sort of fucked up, the theme tune.
Especially given some of the action later in the film where you're like, oh, she's been gang raped. That's kind of grim.
No.
Then literally the next scene, we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Probably the most interesting thing about this film actually is the it's almost as if they got we got a film coming out. When you say, okay, what's the film? Don't know yet. So just
whatever.
get your bets, and we'll just take what you got.
But this is by the same guy who you mentioned that you it's who did all of the music for almost all of these sexy Emanuelle D'Amato films, right?
Nico Fidenko.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, this is we're getting to the very episodic now, where I have a really hard time even keeping in my mind which of these films is which and what's happened, and there's like 25 different like mini movies within this film, right?
Yeah, so we should probably mention a little bit of the Emanuelle thing as well, right? So Emanuelle, of course, starring Sylvia Kristel, huge international hit, especially in Europe, released to see COBRA. Now, I've always had a bit of a hard time with the first few of the Emanuelle series. I've never, I don't know how you two feel. I've never got on with them because they're just bored rich people taking their clothes off in other parts of the world, right? I don't know. They're just something very laconic. They're just, I don't know. They're just rich assholes and ennui, and it's just not my scene, right?
It's not your cup of sleaze.
No. I like something with a bit more agency. You know, they're remaking Emanuelle, which is fascinating to me. And it's someone, I can't remember who it is now, but it's someone like really, really famous is involved in it as well. And it's actually one of the few modern remakes I'm really interested in, because I'm wondering how they're gonna, because there's so many potential trigger warnings for a modern audience. So I think they have a very particular take on. Hang on a minute. Talk about yourself. Sorry.
What? Okay. He's off apparently.
Well, I think I've only ever seen like the first Emanuelle film and the fifth one, but no expert on those really.
I feel like it's been so long. Like I was probably in secondary school. You know, and they were the kind of thing that would maybe show late night on television in Canada. But I don't remember ever being like a teenager and being like, I've got to see more Emanuelle films. I definitely saw more of these Laura Gemser Emanuelle films back then than I ever saw of the actual, you know, legit series. Everything all right there, Clive?
Yeah, sorry. Was there? Did you both say anything worth keeping, or am I cutting that out?
No, you could. We kept talking, so.
Okay, right. Yep. Yeah. No. So yeah. So I don't want to step on anyone's feet if you said it. Yeah, but yeah. So Emanuelle series, and then you get the Black Emanuelle series with 1M, right? Starring the stunning Laura Gemser. I think it's safe to say.
Yes, Indonesian.
Yes.
Yes. Right. But grew up in, like, she's Dutch, sort of Indonesian, which is a legacy of the Dutch being in Indonesia, I suppose. But then she actually went back and grew up there. So, and does she do her own dubbing or not? I was wondering about that.
I think it depends on the film, because she sounds different. For instance, in Black Cobra, it sounds like someone else, doesn't it?
Right.
But a bit of a French accent or something in that film. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if she's someone who's really spoken much about her career. I feel
her husband, whether he's, I don't know if if they're still married, if they were married then or whatever.
He died, so
there we go. So yeah. Okay. But Gabriel Tinti, he's in all of these, right?
Yeah. Well, they were married right up until his death as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so they make these brace of black and Joe D'Amato doesn't make the first one, but he becomes kind of synonymous with the series, right? Joe D'Amato and Laura Gems are
Yeah, they do a lot of these. We have a lot more of them to get through in the next.
The Scorsese and De Niro of
of Emmanuel Ripoff
yeah
films.
And as we'll get to at the very end of this episode, they go to some interesting places.
Yes, they do.
But Emmanuel in Bangkok is very much
not one of those.
No, it's very much the original Emmanuel series, bored rich people fucking in exotic places template, right?
Right, but it does have one thing to recommend it, which is the incredibly thoughtful casting of Ivan Rasimov as a Thai prince. Because I know when you see Ivan Rasimov, you immediately think, "Oh, there's a man.
There's Thai
from Asia."
Yeah.
Yes. Like, what the fuck? For a moment, I was like, "Is that? Did he just say that he's the brother of the king?" Anyway.
Yes, but as he also explains that, well, actually, we got a lot of royals here in Thailand. Like,
right. Yes.
Every other person's a fucking royal, apparently.
I just wondered if it was just his character from Man from Deep River who'd gotten further lost and was now in Thailand. And ended up becoming a member of the royal family somehow. Yeah. Mimi Lay had passed away, and it was time for him to move on. And now he's in. Anyway, yeah. So what's this about?
Well, as to the there is not much of anything really.
Yep.
And
Gabrielle Tinti plays Indiana Boring. Basically, he plays the world's least interesting archaeologist who looks like John Lennon as well in his little roundy glasses and
it doesn't even stay in Bangkok. It goes all over the place. You've got quite a bit in North Africa as well, right?
Yep. They look at Tuareg, like warriors on horseback, and
yeah. Again, we're making it sound kind of more
interesting than it is.
Yeah. There's a couple of annoying American tourists who turn up for a while, and Gems turns her on to other women, so she leaves him. And
yeah, and that dude, that actor Giacomo, is a guy who I know. Have you seen Vincent Price's Last Man on Earth?
Yeah, many years ago. Yeah, great film.
Yeah, I think it's the best version of.
It is by far. Yeah. I don't understand why people always put it down as like the lesser version.
It's easily the most accurate the story, and it's also by far just in every way.
Omega Man can kiss its ass, man.
Yeah,
it's so much better.
As can the more recent one as well. Yeah, no. But anyway, he plays Ben, who is like the guy who's always outside hammering on the window, shouting, "Come out."
Okay.
In that. And
the incessant chatter is quite amusing. Yeah. Oh, do you remember where we got that statue? Oh yeah, sure.
And
we're both Republicans too.
Yeah.
Good point with
he sounds like a Dan Aykroyd out of an 80s annoying, brother-in-law Dan Aykroyd character or something like that.
But no, I'm struggling to really find the thread. I mean, basically, Laura Gems gets on the wrong side of
like a coup or something in Thailand.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy who has the world's worst haircut. He's like, he looks like a Daniel Clowes character with like all the hair down here and then like bald on top.
That guy following him. Yeah. If you're gonna choose a man to tail, don't choose him. Right? He's the most identifiable. He looks as well like who's that? There's a comedian in the UK at the moment, Paul something. He has a very similar haircut.
Yes.
Yeah, that thing is, and it's the combination of the shit haircut and sideburns. I think it's like fucking hell. Look at that. That's Jesus Christ. That's when I saw that, I thought, oh, this film's set in Butlins as well.
And then somehow they end up in Casablanca, and her passport's gone missing because it's it went missing back in Thailand, and then
a snake
He gets-
eats a mouse.
she gets involved with William Berger's daughter, who I didn't realize was. I didn't realize she was like he had a daughter who was an actor who appeared in like nudie films. That surprised me slightly. But yeah. I mean, what the fuck?
I mean, it's always fun to watch Laura Gemser, but you know, there's quite a few films where she's pretty much nude throughout, so you don't necessarily need to seek this one out. In fact, try and find a film in which she wears clothes might be more of a challenge. Ironic that she went on to become known as a costume designer, right? Because she didn't have many costumes.
That's true. Oh shit! Yeah, is she not involved in Troll 2?
Yeah, and Troll 3 or Crawlers or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, she did that. She did the costume design for Troll 2. That's awesome. I have a note here that I probably shouldn't even read out loud. It just says this is after they hook up and there's the gangbang with the Tuareg guys, but it says there's something genuinely affecting about the Indonesian, African, and Caucasian girl dancing naked together in the tent, and much better than Corbucci's Black, Yellow, and White. Which, if you have ever seen that,
everything's better than Corbucci's White, Yellow, and Black.
That may be the worst
film
Italian film ever made. Yeah, anything that has Thomas Millian in it playing an Asian character is very rough. Anyway.
Damn it! You've done it again, Nick.
I did
drag Thomas Millian into this.
Yep. Well, we're in the Italian region, so you know I figure it's more legit than when I'm bringing him up when we're talking about Chinese cinema.
One thing I did like a brief thing that of interest is when she first arrived in Bangkok and she takes a taxi and the cat just out the taxi window. You can see like some Thai movie posters, right? Fuck, they had some awesome, colorful movie posters. Like those things are amazing, and on the big billboards as well. They look great. I hope someone's. Sadly, probably not, but I hope someone stored them in a nice air-conditioned warehouse. I know the answer is no, they didn't, but what a shame, because those things are fucking works of art, those movie posters. I'd like to see a book of Thai movie posters, actually. I don't know if anyone's if there is such a thing, but yeah, they're pretty great. And
I mean, it is worth bringing up that this begins our like you know, let the PETA member viewers beware that we are going to start getting into increasing you know, animal mutilation. There's that kind of that bleed over from the cannibal films of like this one's got the mongoose versus cobra. I think there's a cockfight at one point. So yeah, you know, viewer beware.
Snake being skinned alive.
Oh yeah, that scene was quite good.
Yes.
In the market. Oh, I don't have a problem with that. That's a cooking scene. Yeah, they strips the snake, cuts it into little bits, and cooks it in front of us and hands it. I was thinking that looks pretty good, actually. That's. Have you not had snake? Snake is, you know, quite.
I've had eel, but I don't think I've had snake.
Yeah, I think anything else to say about Emmanuel in Bangkok?
No, just great soundtrack. Yeah, totally incongruous.
Great. I don't know.
I like the soundtrack.
It's a soundtrack. Let's put it that way. Right.
All right. So we're on to the great Jack Palance.
Yeah. Yes.
Most of the time, occasionally for some reason though not. Randomly, about like half a dozen of his lines have been looped by two other dubbers, one of whom is Mark Forrest. And then every now and again, it sounds like a third. Like, did he just not remember to record? Was it during his blackout days? Like, oh fuck, we didn't get 12 of his lines. Oh, we'll just bring in somebody to try to do their best Jack Palance. But it's very clearly not him for certain lines of the dialogue, which is weird.
Right. Yes. So Black Cobra.
Also known as Black Cobra Woman.
Yeah, Eva Nera, right?
Mhm.
So Laura Gemser returns. She's not Emmanuelle this time, though. Although this is, yeah, it's very Black Emmanuelle adjacent cinema, right? They could have just dubbed her name in as Emmanuelle and it could become an Emmanuelle. In fact, I think before actually sitting down to because I hadn't seen this one before, I think I always assumed it was something to do with the Emmanuelle series, but it's not really.
No, well, I mean, spoilers, but it would be the last one, I suppose. I'll say that. If it was a Black Emmanuelle film, it would be the final installment.
Right. It is on the Severin Emmanuelle box set, though, right? I think. The Sexual World of Emmanuelle, or whatever it's called. Yes, so she's a model in this film, and when she's on the plane into Hong Kong, she meets
her husband.
Yes, she meets her husband, Jules.
Yep.
Who has a brother called Judas.
Yep. And her name's Eve. So it all gets very biblical at a certain point with snakes and Eves and Judases.
Yeah, it's not subtle screenwriting. This one meets on the plane, and she's like, he's like, oh, you should meet my brother. So, I mean, it's very casual setup, and yeah, the brother is Jack Palance. Jack Palance seems to be an extremely wealthy dude. I don't know how he's made his money exactly, but he's
inherited. I mean, it sounds like it's a family fortune or a family company. He's inherited it.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what the business in.
No, I don't think it matters.
You know, the family business. No, but so little does. You'd think there'd be just a line in there or something about,
what the hell it is that the actual, they do.
Biscuits or something. I don't know. The McVitie's Empire or something. Biscuits have been good to me, or something. Don't you dare make fun of digestives. And he loves snakes, so he's got a room full of. Again, spoilers for all of this, but by the end of this film, when he's on the phone one more fucking time to the local constabulary, I was wondering, like, why don't they just take his snakes away?
I thought
clearly, how many people die in this film just as a going round to his house, popping round to see Jack, and like, it's another one. Look after snakes.
It reminded me a little bit of those NRA people, whose houses are just full of guns, yeah, exactly. It's like, these are my snakes. He's also quite granddad looking at this point to play, sort of a semi-romantic lead, right? He's in this kind of tweed. He looks like he's literally dressed like my granddad in like a tweed houndstooth jacket with the leather elbow patches.
Complaining about Batman.
Yeah, exactly. Complaining about fucking Batman.
Sorry, in case, well, no one who's watched absolutely everything we've ever done will get that reference, but never mind. Nick's grandfather had a thing against the Batman TV series.
Specifically the 1960s one, yes. Yeah. He thought that Burgess Meredith and Cesar Romero had really lowered their standards by agreeing to appear. He was basically all those kind of 30s actors that he loved. He was like, oh, they made a holy show with themselves. I can't watch this. And he'd storm out. And like, sorry, Granddad, but we need our Adam West. Anyway.
Yeah, also what I like about this film is, like, they've totally given up at this point in Jack Palance's career to, like, no point trying to make Jack look not weird. So let's just have him weird.
Be a weirdo
from the beginning. And there's a great exchange when she goes round to his house and he's had these beautiful snakes and he's being all creepy and shit. And then she just says, I'm scared of you. His next line is, will you come and live with me?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, before that, because I wrote this down too, because it's like, yeah, she goes, I'd like to leave. I'm scared, not of the snakes, but of you.
Yes, yes.
And then he's like, fear and fascination, they're really the same thing. Would you come and live with me?
Yes, yeah. He's like the poster boy for cognitive dissonance, isn't it?
It is, and he's always been the king of like the non-response as well. Like somebody says something to him, and he'll just not respond normally or at all to what they've said.
Yeah, he just kind of he's great. I think he's seeing those things that when you turn the machine on in From Beyond.
Yes.
And that's this thing. I think he can see them, and they're scared of him. He's safe.
They're darting away from him. Yeah. It's also so when he first actually sees her, she has a snake dance charming thing, right? She's a touring topless snake dancer, right? That's her shtick. So she's dancing with the snake around her, and then he's like, "Ooh, Granddad likes that."
This is better than Batman.
Yes, and then so basically he does manage to somehow convince her, or the brothers somehow they together convince her that they should rent her an apartment, right? Or that they start taking care of her.
She becomes a kept woman, basically.
Yeah,
and I don't think she's even sleeping with him.
No,
he's having her around, and there's one really nice moment. It's funny. There's some exchanges in this film which are like quite. It's an odd little film, but there's a bit like where she's talking to him, and he's just like caressing her nose or the side of her face or something like that, and she just says, "I'm not a snake," and he's oh.
I have to say he's very comfortable handling the snakes, is old Jack. He doesn't seem to be at all concerned.
I know they're scared of him.
Fair enough.
An alternative universe, there's a big snake in a suit, and he's got lots of little Jack Palances in tanks in his room.
Now, I have a question for you, Clive. You've been to Hong Kong, right?
I haven't been to Jack Palance's apartment. But
no, actually, but you've been to Hong Kong.
Jack Palance didn't go to Hong Kong for this film either, I don't think. He just stuck in a studio in Rome. Although apparently he loved Hong Kong. It was one of his favorite cities, he said.
But there are shots on the street, and there's a shit ton of topless joints and massage parlors in this 70s era of Hong Kong. And I was wondering if that's something that
I think that's not there anymore. No,
I would say no, definitely not now. But I wonder when that crackdown would have happened. Like, would they have been there into the 90s or 2000s?
No, I don't think so. I think they must have been phased out
by the 80s. Then.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's actually one of my favorite scenes in this is the strip club scene. I have to say, those strippers were mighty cute. I think I have a note here that says this movie is weirdly boring for something with this much TNA, but those dancers are hot as fuck though. Yowza. That's the kind of the high quality notes that I take when
have you ever thought of having your notes published? It's up there with the Kenneth Tynan diary. Nick's notes.
Yeah.
People actually write Yowza down. That's amazing to me. I thought it was just something people exclaim.
I don't know if you can see that.
It is, yeah.
There.
2 exclamation marks as well.
Yep.
We should say so. Yeah, it does approach a kind of bizarre ending as well. The ending.
Well, I had a thought. I was thinking to myself, it's a bit like that old thing of like, if you have a brother who suffers from some sort of psychopathy, is it a good idea to have him live in your house that's entirely full of highly venomous snakes?
Yes, so we should say that Jack Palance is the weirdo, but the real bad brother here turns out to be coming.
Be the other brother, yes.
But the very ending, I couldn't. Is it a suicide almost?
It seems like hers is. But are we going to skip over the fact that somebody is sodomized with a snake before that ending?
Ah, yes. Maybe we should bring that up. Yeah, this is
seems worthy of bringing up.
And actually, none other than Tinty himself, right?
My favorite reveal in the entire film actually happens at this point, where so she has taken off. Laura Gemser, or Eve, has taken off with Tinty. She now knows that he murdered her girlfriend, right, with a snake. The second or third person who gets bitten and dies in the apartment. So yeah, so she takes him off to some little island that's got fishermen on it, and then he wakes up and she's gone, and he's like, "Oh fuck, where's she gone?" And he comes down to the beach, and there's this great guitar playing, like on the soundtrack that I assumed was the movie soundtrack, until he comes around a corner, and then there's a dude just on the beach with a guitar while his buddy is boning Laura Gemser. Like he's just sitting next to them playing a soundtrack while they fuck. That's brilliant. And then shortly afterwards, he gets sodomized with a gut-eating snake.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where to go from there, really.
No, I don't know where to go either. I'd never seen that in a film before. And it goes on a while. I mean, you don't see anything, but you get to see a lot of reaction shots of Gabrielle Tinty's face as a snake apparently worms its way into his lower intestine and starts to nibble on his colon.
Let's just stop and think about that. Let us ponder.
It's not a great way to go.
But I'll tell you though, it's an odd one, this film, because like you said, it's not the most exciting film in the world, but by the time it got to the end, there was something about this film. I was thinking, fuck me if I'm not gonna watch this again. Maybe there's something. It's a real. I can't think of like most films. You can think of an equivalent. Oh yeah, this is a bit like that and this and that. But this film in its totality has such a weird plot. I can't think of another film with a plot anything quite like this, really. Like just this particular variation is like, what a weird fucking story this is. I mean, it really is a strange, like made up, like someone wrote it in like a fever or something like that, isn't it? It's like a very odd. Model goes to Hong Kong, meets man on plane, gets on with her brother who's rich. She's a kept woman. She's also a snake dancer. Turns out the brother's a psycho who kills her friend who she makes with the snakes. And then she gets her revenge by getting a big snake up his ass. Followed by a strange, possibly suicidal exchange with weirdo snake man. It's like, who wrote this? It's a very odd one.
You think they're like going for a sort of last time going Paris sort of vibe? With sort of Jack Palance as this guy who becomes obsessed with his younger woman, and then the relationship's mostly played out in an apartment, and at the end one of them sort of dies, and the other one sort of implicated in the murder. I don't know, maybe that's
could be. But snake.
I was gonna say, yeah, smell the farts of the dying snake.
But apparently they didn't get. I remember once hearing that Lola Gemser had given an interview where she claimed that the only male actor she never got along with was Jack Palance. So I don't. I wonder if like Gabrielle Tintin may possibly inherited a lot of the scenes that were originally meant for him, Jack Palance. It kind of feels like the Judas character should have been the one who was killing people with snakes. And...
Yeah, I mean the clue was in the name, right?
Judas was wrongly accused, you know.
It's a very odd. Yeah, I think you might be onto something there, Gav. I don't know if you end up with a film like this deliberately. It's almost as if it was supposed to be this, but then this element got removed or something, and then they added something else, and and then the end result is this kind of, but it doesn't usually when that happens you can set like the film seems like a bit of a mess, like more, but this is quite, it is episodic in ways, but it's kind of stripped down as well. So it's a weird, it's on the one hand I think it probably did end up the way it ended up because of a series of things that either went right or wrong, but the end result weirdly feels like the film they set out to make. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not kind of too expansive or like, so it's an odd one. It's a very, I don't know why I quite fancy to watch this again just to kind of vibe on it and just I don't know. Am I the only one who kind of, I don't think it's a great film, but I got something out of it. Am I just mental, or did you both kind of enjoy it as well?
You go ahead, Gav.
Yeah, well, no, I did enjoy it. I mean, I think I get a bit. I also think I enjoy films that are set in like 70s sleazy part of Hong Kong, and it shows certainly knows, that it is, some sort of sleazy thing going on. It is like some fight between a mongoose and a snake, or women fighting ping pong balls out of their privacy. You'll find it and stick it on film. So yeah, I kind of like it.
Right.
Yeah, me too. Well, my yowza.
Yeah. Yes, there we go. It's all boiled down.
I noticed that the screenplay is Joe D'Amato, but then there's also something called G. Egley, or EGLE, also credited. So it's some combination of D'Amato and whoever the hell G. Egley is.
We don't talk about G. We keep him locked up. Now, it's very interesting to me, and this is good. I didn't know this was going to happen. So it turns out, Nick, you've never seen Emmanuel in America before.
Nope.
Now, this is fascinating to me. I would have put money on us all reminiscing, as I'm sure me and Gav will, of the 100-minute Venezuelan VHS print. And all that back in the day before, of course, now you can get a pristine Blu-ray, which again, how times have changed, amazing. But actually, this is going to be really fascinating to hear what you make of it, Nick, fresh, as it were, because old favorite for you, Gav?
I've never seen it before either.
Oh, really?
Oh, awesome.
Oh,
never.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard about it a lot over the years, and everything I've heard about it never made me want to see this film.
Oh man, I didn't realize that you are both well-balanced human beings. This was a must-see for me. Like, as soon as I heard about it back in the day, I think. I don't know if it was either me or Darren who ended up, buying a bootleg copy from our bootleg place, and then of course, whatever's mine is, we would swap everything and copy it. But between the two of one, anyway, Emmanuel America, yeah, back in the day, the uncut version, which was sourced from a Venezuelan VHS, was like one of those, like everyone tried to get the uncut cut and run as well, if you remember. That was another thing. Right. Both.
The unholy grails.
Yes. Yowza. So now, I don't quite know how to go about this, because I don't know what this was, third, fourth watch or something for me. And
well, so maybe then we should have Gav speak about it first, and then I'll talk about it, and then you finish up, Clive, because
I don't think I can get it. I don't think I can do a straight ahead kind of telling of what, because it's grown in such stature in my mind that I can only talk around it in kind of highfalutin terms. Anyway,
you must avert your eyes from its glory.
Yeah, you can't look directly.
It's the Sistine Chapel it's the Sistine Chapel of horse swanking snuff films.
Well, you know what? You've done it again. You've hit the nail on the head there. It certainly is that. But yeah, Gav, take it away. What's all this about?
Well, I don't know. I just like I don't know. I think this has been so hyped over the years about this being the most like extreme, all-time classic exploitation film, and it's like it took a long while for it to become, to become that film. The first hour or so, it just seemed like yet another, humdrum Black Emmanuel film. But I don't know. Maybe it's been overhyped to me over the years. Maybe if I had watched it, back in the day, but I sort of built this film up in my mind as sort of like this big boogeyman of, excruciatingly hard to watch sort of film. And I don't know. Maybe I expected it to be sort of like grueling, from start to finish, like a cannibal holocaust or that fallow or something like that. But no, I don't know. I'm not sure it really lived up to the hype. Building it up in my head as something, I never wanted to see.
What was the thing about it that you thought you didn't want to see?
I don't know. It just didn't seem very appealing. Not movies, and it's the most realistic depiction of it. Not real. I don't really. I don't know. For some reason, I just like tried to avoid this film over the years.
Is that much the same reason you avoided it, Nick? Or
I think maybe, yeah. I think or it was the kind of thing that like at that time, I could have seen the authorities coming around. I was like, is this something that I want to like? Is this a hill I want to die on? Is like, because it was the one I had a friend who did manage to get a copy, but it was like, it was the kind of thing where even Cannibal Holocaust for some reason was like, okay, well, that's that. But then somehow this, maybe because of that what I alluded to before, it's that weird unholy mix of the two, right? It's got two scenes that I think are two sets of scenes that are quite infamous, right? The horse scene earlier in the film, and then the faux snuff. I will say that it was surprisingly effective. That stuff, the stuff later in the film, when they do introduce the snuff footage, even knowing that it's fake, and considering this is before, it's before Cannibal Holocaust, right?
Yeah.
And in that way, I thought like, ooh, like it does make Ruggero Deodato's some of the achievement of that film. You're like, oh, okay, not quite as groundbreaking, because this found footage stuff really is disconcerting. It was a night that I actually deliberately didn't imbibe anything, because I was like, I want to see the stone cold sober. I don't want to be in an impressionable state of any kind, or I could have a really bad night.
You didn't have a senator standing behind you with a velvet hand
on my ass while I watch. No, but yeah, I will say it's and it's interesting that because they keep coming back to it too, right? You think like, oh, okay, I'm done with that now, and then like, oh fuck, 5 minutes later, I'm watching more footage from this, fake, but very real seeming, in some ways. It was grim.
So yes, you're quite right, and I think this is what makes it fascinating for me, is the fact that it does begin like yet another episodic Black Emmanuelle film, right? She's what we maybe didn't get so much from Emmanuelle in Bangkok, but Emmanuelle in the Black Emmanuelle, she's supposed to be like an investigative journalist, right?
Yes.
She has a little secret camera like brooch thing, and she can take incredibly good high resolution pictures for the 1970s. It's quite impressive. Mm-hmm. She's got some fucking future technology in her hands there. So she goes on all these kind of different undercover assignments. I mean, she seems to have just carte blanche, right? She does whatever the fuck she wants because she's hot as fuck, and always ends up in kind of amazing situations. And it starts off with like some guy carjacks her, and
that's actually quite fascinating, that whole scene, because before that she's photographing, like she's
She's
taking.
also a fashion photographer as well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. She's
Yeah,
she's got a lot going on.
She's busy, this woman.
Yeah. But that opening scene, like they're in a big studio, and that studio is bonkers. There's like a dead polar bear on the floor, face down, and then behind her, there's what looks like an eggplant with a vagina. That turns out to be a sliding door in the wall.
There's an awesome piece of artwork on the wall as well, isn't there? It looks like some kind of strange, like I don't know what it is. It's like Robert Crumb drew a Yeti or something. Yeah, it's very odd look. Yeah. Yeah, she's got quite the pad.
But so she meets an incel, a very early incel.
Yeah.
Like maybe the first one, like
pioneering incel,
who basically shows up and is upset because, you know, as far as he's concerned, she's lured his, you know, virginal perfect girlfriend into a world of sleaze and debauchery, and so he's going to kill her. And then so she gives him a blowjob, which causes him to be so excited that he runs away in a panic.
Yes.
But then as the movie comes back to much later on, turns out was what he needed to cure him of his.
Yeah. Also, this is comic relief, right? This is this bit just another episode in the hilarious day-to-day adventures of Emmanuelle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and so the next thing is she meets Tinty, right? Who's a duke in this film,
right?
And what happens?
So she infiltrates this, like there's like the dude who has like the 12 girls of the gem or the star sign girls, you know, harem. So she infiltrates a rich dude's like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she goes into the harem. She meets Tinty.
There, yeah.
Goes to Venice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a party that kind of turns into an orgy there.
Oh, with hardcore. Yeah, that's another thing, I suppose. That yes, at the time that would have been quite daring too. That there are
hardcore,
hardcore inserts.
So, and then she hears about this kind of stud farm for rich women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to the stud farm for rich women, and that's another expose. And then
at that point, it just fully becomes a porn film too. Like it's just like vignette after like this dude likes to do like Tarzan. We get like 2 minutes of that, and then this guy likes.
That's not George Eastman.
It seemed like it might be, but I wasn't sure.
But insert, I think it is George Eastman.
George Eastman, yeah.
Yes, I eat you. No, Jane eats Tarzan.
Yes, but there's like scene after scene, and then then we get to the crux of the matter, right? When she goes to one woman's room.
Yes, she sees some snuff footage, right? Which in the tradition of snuff is, you know, seems to be made in South America where life is cheap, right? And she's fascinated in it. So then she ends up hooking up with a senator who then shows her some more of this snuff while. Yeah,
that's hilarious. Like how quickly he goes from like, you know, like maybe you don't jump quite so quickly to showing people your snuff film collection, right?
Yeah, I always like.
Do you have anything harder? He's like, then regular pornography. Yeah, he doesn't go. There's several places you could go before you get to.
Yeah, I always wait third or fourth date before I whip.
Before you open up the snuff cabinet.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, this is all so and eventually it ends up with her being drugged LSD. She's taken somewhere in South America, and she sees, you know, basically people being.
Sees Videodrome.
Yeah. And interestingly, Videodrome. So
yes, I didn't know that.
Apparently, yeah, David Cronenberg saw footage of this footage from Emmanuelle in America in some sort of. I think it was like they had some sort of. It was about censorship, right? They had some sort of
like a documentary or something.
No. What's the word I'm struggling for? Not a gallery, not like an open, not like a show, like a what's the word I'm looking for? There was like an event that was about censorship, something or other, in Toronto, I believe, and they had the footage playing in this installation or something.
Wow,
and that's when he saw it.
Yeah, this is the story he tells as opposed to he ordered the Venezuelan VHS tape.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it leads to him making Videodrome, right? But so anyway, yeah, and as we said, that footage is fucking. I mean, the effects are astonishing, right? And it's not just that it's the fact that it's so sexualized as well, right? Because it's violence, but it's also rape going on and things like there's like that. Oddly enough, it's not so much the breast being hacked off or stuff like that. So it's like when they bring out this dildo-shaped funnel and put it in a woman's mouth and then pour like some kind of molten liquid into it. It's like, what? It's like, how can I say? It's like it's actually been designed by someone who understands this as a turn on, if you see what I mean. Do you know what I mean? It seems like it comes from the inside.
Well, that would be Joe D'Amato, I assume, right?
But it's properly sexualized. Like it's properly it seems like it's come from the inside rather than someone attempting to see inside the mind of it. It feels there's something authentic about it, even though obviously there's no such a thing as snuff films as we know. But if snuff films did actually really exist, they would look like this, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like actually, so what I just said about the senator who immediately goes to this, I also feel like 18 films into his filmography, I don't know Joe D'Amato well enough for him to do this to me. It's like he himself has jumped to the gun as far as I'm concerned. Compared, like, so how long did it take before Lenzi? Like, Lenzi had like 35 movies under his belt, it felt like, before we got to like him started to push these buttons. But Joe gets there
and he went nowhere near this, right? No, and I'm gonna call it now early. I suspect this might be D'Amato's masterpiece when we get to the end of all this. I suspect this might be. It's interesting. Gav might disagree because but like you were saying, Gav, it's almost like unfair in a way because it's been so built up that yes, I can see it kind of if you're expecting something like really, I mean, it is outrageous, don't get me wrong, but it's like you said, it's not wall-to-wall outrage, right?
I thought it seems to take a long while to get to this film was so infamous, and then it seemed to take a long while for it to become that sort of film,
Yeah,
like an hour before we really get anything that's not.
But at the end of the day, though, I think that's actually what makes it even more fucked up, because it's the fact that it's presented as just another.
I suppose if you buy a ticket to Cannibal Holocaust,
you know what you're
you have an idea what you've bought a ticket to go see, right? Whereas this potentially is a much sketchier bait and switch in terms of if you've gone to see, I like those Emmanuelle films. They're kind of titillating, and then you're an hour this, you're like, what the fuck have I done? Where I have to go home now.
I can just imagine now Father Ted and Dougal standing outside with signs saying,
"Careful now,
this sort of thing." Careful now. No, I watching this time, I was so I was just like really thinking about it, just how conceptually fucked up this is, like, because it never stops being just another element of erotic sex play, right? Through the whole thing. Like, even when Emmanuelle's watching women being killed, for the senator's standing behind her, groping her ass, and even when the scoop of the century, as she calls it, and she seems almost more excited about what it'll do for her career than. It displays no post-traumatic stress.
It has very little effect on her, yes. And in fact, then the movie moves into, and again, I think in some ways certainly predating, but also like kind of anticipating or getting ahead of like what Deodato does.
Yeah,
Because this
absolutely.
also breaks the fourth wall at the end with the sudden, like, oh, they're making a movie about
yes,
cannibal. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
That's fascinating as well, that whole ending, right? Because yeah, she wants to go off on holiday somewhere tropical where, you know, we've traumatized, let's have a bit of comedy relief now, and we're gonna marry Laura Games off to a local tribesman, and it's all a little bit yeah, it's all slightly questionable.
Pirates, it's all back to Pirates, Karate, and Beans.
Yeah. And then an American film crew turn up, ellipses, and I don't exactly know what that's meant to mean exactly, but there's something sinister and ominous about it, right? There's something not good about seeing these white people turn up in the third world. There's like some form of exploitation is about to erupt, right? Which is pretty heavy fucking stuff for an Emmanuelle film. So there's so much going on, and how can I say this? It felt to me like it was like, I can imagine a men's adventure magazine from the mid-70s, Laura Gemser naked on the cover, and everything that's in this film like is in the issue promised, you know, like, see the you know, the stud farm or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, the exploits of, and real people killed, and something like that. And the reader of Rage magazine is getting excited. But it feels almost, not by accident, it just feels like absolutely perfect, like National Enquirer, all the kind of all that stuff that you would read in a man's magazine, the, you know, conspiracy, that just made into a film which is just a pure distillation of I don't know, it seems almost perfect to me.
I will say that, like I just said before about how I felt like D'Amato was like taking liberties with me, like, you know, I'm like, I don't know you well enough for you to make a movie like this and haven't watched it, Joe. But nope, I've lost my train of thought entirely there. It was going somewhere really exciting though. We'll see if it comes back.
But do you know what I mean? It's like, it seems, I don't know, it seems effort, like it's a, I don't know.
So I do remember now. It's reckless. Reckless is the word I'm looking for. This feels like somebody at the wheel who I'm like, somebody should take the steering wheel away from that man.
Right, yeah. But also
because to the tonal whiplash,
he's in total control.
The tonal whiplash is worse than anything I've ever seen in a Category 3 film. Like, because when it goes dark, it goes as dark as anything I've ever seen in a non-documentary, like in a you know, a fiction film or whatever. And then, but then it also has these moments of like broad comedy and these things that are just purely sexploitation. And then it's got somebody wanking a horse. It's just like,
which will turn up again in Caligula 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's just, I this time watching it, it really solidified itself for me, just like as like, whether by accident, it's such a perfect, and it's interesting. I was thinking about Cannibal Holocaust a lot as well. Like, I can't say, because Cannibal Holocaust, we've talked about Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust is just one of those things. It's on this elevated place. It's like a film that, through a mixture of accident and design, created just something that is, on the one hand, undefendable
in several countries.
Yeah, but also, like, I don't know, it just, Cannibal Holocaust is just, it's a magnificent achievement. And what's great about it, I think, is the fact that you can't defend it, that even defending it, you feel like you shouldn't be defending it. It's a film that exploits and is exploited, and it's just a once in a lifetime achievement, that film, I think. And you can't, you can't defend it, but at the same time, it is a kind of a masterpiece.
I feel like I should warn people at home that if Clive
Oh,
ever
good
invites you over to his house for a double bill of the 2 greatest films ever made, fucking don't go.
Well, no,
You're
but
in for a
Emmanuel
rough
in
night,
America
friend.
is I'm starting to think of it in similar terms.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is your double bill that you're
It's
gonna.
not one of the best, but it's just entering into that territory of something almost beyond criticism, because the thing that they've ended up
Sublime. Something
it
truly
is
sublime.
it is sublime. It is sublime, and it's just I don't know why this, because I've seen this film a number of times, but watching it this time, I was just really taken aback. Like, fuck, they've really ended up with something really extraordinary. I don't know how they've done it, because it wears itself very lightly as well. Because I don't think they were thinking like that. I don't think they were trying to make a hard hitting kind of. I think they were, it was very much, oh, we got another Black Emmanuel. The last one was a hit. Okay, we put a bit more violent. How about Jack of a Horse? Huh? Got any ideas? And how about you? Any good ideas in that Rage magazine? Well, it says in here there's a story about snuff films. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll put it in. And they've just ended up with this thing, which is just jaw-droppingly, and like you said, Gav, you're right. If you're going in expecting wall-to-wall excess, it's going to let you down. But if you just let it take you, and you just consider the thematics of the film and how it plays out and the concept, it's fucked up. This film is fucked up to an astonishing extent, and I salute Joe D'Amato for this.
Too, that like he's, that this is not the last of his, Emmanuel films with, because it feels like it should have come after about 4 other ones. This shouldn't be the second one.
yeah, like I said, he did.
Because you're kind of thinking, where the fuck is he gonna go? Like, if you'd gone to see that in the cinema, I would be terrified of what the next one was going to be. Like, you'd go to the cinema and George Eastman would be there and hold you down. You're like, oh, I didn't want to see Emmanuel meets George.
I was wondering, actually, in terms of, like, so obviously later on it became notorious and you couldn't find blah, 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 this now on Blu-ray, which is amazing. But so
yeah, the Criterion
when it was released into theaters, let's say, for instance, in Europe, I'm assuming the first time out the gate, before maybe someone complained, I'm assuming it played uncut, right, with all this stuff in there. And yeah, that must have just blown people's minds, right? If
you were just a regular raincoater, I don't.
No, I don't think that even this would have played in like regular theaters. Right?
Okay, so yes.
So people are like, oh, Emmanuel, oh yeah, rich people in exotic countries, big wicker chairs. Yeah, I'm in for that. What the heck is it? I want to go home. Just amazing. I respect this film so much now. I don't know why it took me this long to reach this conclusion, but yeah, I'm watching this again soon.
This is the one where everyone got around, George Eastman and Joe at the end during the wrap, and we're like, we are the kings of the universe. Everyone will admire us.
And then they killed the maid.
Yep.
What are you thinking, Gav? I mean, obviously, I've gone big on this, and you are looking at me like I might be something a bit wrong with me. But do you think this is something you might give another go to, or do you think you got the measure of it pretty much, or do you just flat out disagree and think I'm a weirdo and this is actually not good, or where?
Well, I'm glad I've seen it now. Anyway, I've conquered it now. Anyway,
right.
Yes, I can probably go about under 20 years without having to watch it again.
Was it so that snuff stuff though? I mean, was that actually tough going to watch, or?
Well, yeah, but yeah.
How about you?
I mean, it's an intense film, yeah, but I don't know. So much to take in, isn't there? I mean, yeah, maybe I do need to watch it again to sort of appreciate it, but it definitely hits you, the first time you see it.
But you're not necessarily. It sounds as if you are not in a rush, though. Maybe to.
No, I don't think.
But
I think probably
I mean, is that more because it's parts of it were boring, or is it just genuinely like, yep, don't want to see that imagery again too?
Probably a mixture of both, I think.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So it still works in a way, to this day.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I don't watch as much hardcore, heavy gore as I used to. I mean, it has been quite a while since I've watched. I guess other than when we did all the lenses recently, and I ended up back in that territory again a little bit. But that stuff is a bit more risible. There's something really unsettling about that footage. Like, yeah, knowing that it's not real, it still worked. It worked too well. It's too easy to suspend your disbelief because it looks so granular. It looks so. Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's more than just the way it's been shot incredibly well to make it look like it's real and it's really happening. But then also what you said about, which I hadn't thought so much of too, but that unholy mashup of the violence with the sex. There's
because it is definitely presented as sexual, and I might be thrown out of the local church for saying this, but also kind of succeeds. Like, there's that little bit of it which is, this is kind of,
this is your George Eastman locked in the cupboard moment.
Yeah, this is kind of, I can see what I mean. It's not that I'm not saying I'm sitting there with a boner. What I'm saying is I'm getting the CD vibe that I'm getting that trigger. I'm getting that kind of.
You understand what about it would appeal to an audience who wants to see that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. But you're not necessarily that audience, but you're also not necessarily not.
There we go. There we go. Like I said, I've got the senator behind me. I'm confused.
I'll be okay. I'll be okay to go another 8 movies without having to see anything quite so harrowing. For sure. Yeah, that was. I mean, I don't regret having seen it. I think too, like Gav, it was kind of one of those things that was kind of like always in the back of my mind. Oh yeah, that's the one that you have your checklist of like all that stuff. Your guinea pigs and the rest of it. That you see when you're a young person, who's looking to have his eyeballs soiled.
But I think that stuff, guinea pig and stuff like that, in some ways where they went further, but they always felt a little gimmicky in a way, and plus, like you said, presented, what it is.
Yes.
Like, there's no, even though it's funny, I remember first turning up in Tokyo and finding in, I think, Shinjuku's Taya, like, guinea pig, all the guinea pigs on a shelf, just there, like
next to Home Alone.
Yeah. Charlie Sheen isn't there shouting at me and telling me that it's just there. You can rent it, bring it back. It's just, okay, this is interesting. There's different context for this, right? But and in that way, I think that's why Emmanuel America is so. It's is the fact that it has just slipped in there. Like, what's coming out this weekend? You got Towering Inferno, Emmanuel in America. It's Emmanuel in America. What an innocuous. It's not called Snuff Emmanuel or Emmanuel in America. Oh yeah, the crazy things that Americans. Because that's the other thing as well. There's a little bit of that, isn't there? There's like the carjacker, the incel guy, and it's a little bit of the. The crazy Americans, what they do, what happened in America? It's the snuff. Anyway, I could go on, but that's probably not a good idea. And yeah, right. So that was the D'Amato Files. Yeah, you're quite right, Nick. He jumped the gun. They were only in episode 2. And so we'll see what lies in store as we continue next time. We got some more Emmanuelle's on the way. So anyway, I've been Clive Davis. He has been
I've been Nick.
And down there,
Gavin, arrivederci.
You disappear.